Imagine for a moment that there is an unseen power guiding your thoughts, shaping your choices, and stirring your deepest desires. You may believe you are fully in control, making decisions through reason and logic, yet beneath the surface something more primal is at work. This hidden energy is not simply about sex as an act, but about what sex represents on a psychological level. It is the force that Carl Jung described as the libido, not limited to physical desire but encompassing the very life energy that fuels creativity, emotion, and action. Sigmund Freud once argued that repression of sexual desire was at the root of human neurosis. Jung, however, went further. He saw sexuality as a symbol of psychic vitality, and he warned that when this energy is misunderstood, denied, or suppressed, it becomes part of the shadow, a buried force that quietly manipulates behavior, relationships, and identity. Think about how society handles sexuality. It censors it, commodifies it, exploits it, and represses it. But when something so fundamental is denied, it does not vanish. It hides in the dark, where it begins to control us in ways we rarely recognize. Jung called this the shadow, the collection of traits, urges, and fears we reject or ignore. And within that shadow lies our hidden sexuality, desires, fantasies, and vulnerabilities we were taught to silence. They remain alive, yet instead of serving us, they govern us unconsciously. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "That which is hidden and despised will eventually master you." This is the danger Jung pointed to. When we deny a natural force, it does not simply go away. It turns against us, shaping our judgments, reactions, and even the way we perceive others. Consider this. When you are quick to condemn someone else's behavior, are you truly reacting to them, or to something unresolved within yourself? What we suppress, we project. And what we project becomes the mirror through which we see the world. This is why Jung insisted on the process of individuation, the integration of both conscious and unconscious aspects of the self, including our sexual energy. Personal growth cannot be achieved through repression, but only through acknowledgement and integration. As the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus observed, what is hidden will be revealed, and what is repressed will rise again. The task, then, is not to erase desire but to understand it. When sexual energy is cut off, it twists into obsession, fear, or shame. But when embraced consciously, it transforms into vitality, confidence, and creativity. Think of your body as a compass. What triggers discomfort, what draws curiosity, what sparks anger or attraction, these are not random. They are signals from the unconscious inviting you to pay attention. Dreams often serve this function. Jung studied them closely, recognizing that sexual imagery in dreams rarely meant physical intimacy. Instead, it often symbolized an inner union, the meeting of different aspects of the self. The inner feminine or anima within a man. The inner masculine or animus within a woman. These archetypes shape how we love, how we connect, and how we grow. When undeveloped, they lead to dysfunction. When integrated, they guide us toward wholeness. The French philosopher Voltaire once wrote, "Man is free the moment he wishes to be." Freedom, in Jung's sense, comes not from denying our instincts, but from making peace with them. As long as sexual energy is treated as something shameful or dangerous, it will remain in the shadows. But once it is seen for what it truly is, a life force, a creative impulse, a signal from the soul, it can empower us. This is why repression fragments us. It severs us from our deepest vitality and leaves us chasing substitutes, external validation, compulsive habits, or shallow pleasures. True integration is not indulgence and not denial. It is consciousness. It is the willingness to look within without judgment, to see desire as neither sin nor threat but as an essential part of human wholeness. And so the question becomes, what part of you have you silenced? What longing have you buried out of fear of judgment? And what would change if you allowed yourself to stop running from it? Because in facing what you suppress, you may finally uncover who you really are. We have opened the door to the hidden power of sexuality within the psyche. Now we must step further into the labyrinth, where culture, religion, and collective belief systems decide how we view desire. If sexual energy is one of the strongest forces in human life, why is it so heavily regulated? Why is it praised in some contexts and condemned in others? Carl Jung offered a sobering answer. He saw sexuality not merely as pleasure but as power. And power, when left unconscious, can be dangerous. This is why societies have always tried to shape it, control it, and restrict it. Religions have declared desire sinful. Media has commodified and exploited it. Families have silenced conversations about it. The result is a paradox. On one side, sex is everywhere, in advertisements, films, casual talk. On the other side, genuine dialogue about intimacy, shame, or emotional vulnerability remains rare. The philosopher Michel Foucault once wrote, "Where there is power, there is resistance." He argued that societies discipline bodies and desires because those are sources of freedom. What you repress collectively becomes what you fear collectively. And that fear keeps people obedient, disconnected from themselves, and easily controlled. Think about how this plays out in everyday life. Many grow up taught that desire is shameful. Others are bombarded with hypersexualized images that reduce intimacy to performance. Both paths create disconnection. One numbs the senses through guilt. The other exhausts the senses through overstimulation. Neither path leads to integration. Both lead to fragmentation. Jung warned that what we repress doesn't vanish. It mutates into anxiety, compulsive behavior, secret obsessions, or even violence. Have you ever felt suddenly overwhelmed by a craving, a fear, or an emotion that seemed to appear from nowhere? That is often the unconscious trying to break through. What we bury too long eventually demands expression. The Stoic philosopher Seneca observed, "What nature requires, she herself tells us." When we ignore nature's voice, it returns louder, often in distorted ways. This is the shadow at work. In modern terms, psychologists recognize how trauma, especially sexual trauma or repression, embeds itself in the body. The nervous system carries the memory. The body reacts even when the mind wants to forget. As Bessel van der Kolk wrote in The Body Keeps the Score, healing begins only when we bring awareness to what we have been taught not to feel. Society teaches us to wear masks, to present curated versions of ourselves. This mask is what Jung called the persona. It allows us to function socially but hides the raw truth beneath. And what we hide, we often project onto others. When we see in someone else the very traits we deny in ourselves, we judge them harshly. But it is not truly them we are reacting to. It is our own disowned parts reflected back. This is why conversations about sexuality are often so charged. They awaken projections, shadows, and unresolved wounds. If we cannot hold honest discussions about desire, we cannot hold honest discussions about ourselves. True integration requires courage. It requires asking, who taught me to fear my own body? Who convinced me that longing is weakness? And what would happen if I approached my own desires with curiosity instead of shame? Philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once reflected, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." To confront desire directly creates anxiety because it reminds us we are free. Free to feel. Free to act. Free to claim responsibility for our choices. Yet freedom is frightening, which is why repression often feels safer. But repression comes with a cost. It creates fragmentation between the conscious self and the unconscious shadow. Keeps us half alive, functioning but unfulfilled. Integration, on the other hand, requires presence. It means allowing ourselves to notice not just the surface attractions but the deeper longings beneath them. It means listening to dreams, fantasies, and body signals not as enemies but as guides. Jung believed dreams revealed our inner world without the filter of judgment. A dream of intimacy may not be about another person but about the union of parts within us. The masculine and feminine, reason and emotion, light and shadow, all seeking reconciliation. This reconciliation is the true alchemy. It is the process of transforming repression into vitality, shame into self-acceptance, fragmentation into wholeness. It does not happen through denial or indulgence. It happens through awareness. To face the shadow is to begin the path of individuation. To reclaim what has been silenced is to step into authenticity. And authenticity is the ground of freedom. So ask yourself, in your own life, are you living from repression or from presence? Do you carry desires that frighten you because you never learned how to integrate them? And what would shift if you saw them not as sins but as signals from the soul? Because until you face them, they will continue to shape your life from the shadows. If sexuality holds such profound influence within the psyche, then it is inevitable that it also shapes the way we connect with others. Carl Jung believed that relationships are mirrors. They reflect back to us the unresolved material within our unconscious. We are not simply drawn to people we love. We are often drawn to those who activate the very parts of us we have yet to integrate. Think of the times you have felt irresistibly attracted to someone. Perhaps they excited you, challenged you, even hurt you, and still you could not walk away. This is not coincidence. This is projection. Jung taught that projection is the process by which we place our hidden qualities, desires, fears, wounds, onto another person. In no arena is this more powerful than in romantic and sexual relationships. The philosopher Plato described love in the Symposium as the desire for wholeness, the longing to find in another what we feel is missing in ourselves. He wrote, "Each of us is but the mere half of a human being, and we are always seeking our other half." This search for completion is what makes passion so intense. Yet it also sets the stage for disappointment. Because when the illusion of projection fades, we are left with the truth. Two imperfect beings, each carrying shadows, each hoping the other will heal what they have avoided within. This is why passion can turn so quickly into pain. It is not that the other person betrayed us. It is that the mask of projection dissolved. And the wound within us, unhealed, came to the surface. Sexual repression intensifies this cycle. When we are disconnected from our own desire, our own emotional body, we cannot truly meet another. We can only perform connection, not embody it. True intimacy, emotional, physical, and psychological, requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is impossible when shame rules the inner world. Have you ever wondered, in your own relationships, am I showing up fully, or only performing the version of myself I believe is acceptable? Do I allow another to see my raw truth, or only the mask I have perfected? The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Hell is other people," but what he meant is not that others are inherently harmful. Rather, that in their gaze we are confronted with our own truth. Relationships expose the parts of ourselves we try to hide. And if we have not accepted those parts, we feel judged, ashamed, or incomplete. This is why intimacy is both beautiful and terrifying. It demands that we reveal what we most want to conceal. Modern dating often revolves around image management. We curate photos, highlight achievements, suppress flaws. But beneath that effort lies a fear. If someone saw our real self, would they stay? The tragedy is not that they might leave. The tragedy is that in hiding we abandon ourselves first. Jung reminded us that wholeness does not come from perfection, but from integration. It means loving even the parts of ourselves we once rejected. The needs, the fears, the longings. To deny them is to remain fragmented. To embrace them is to move toward individuation. Consider how many relationships fail because two people expect each other to heal wounds they have never faced alone. One seeks validation for suppressed desire. The other seeks rescue from repressed fear. Each performs a role, yet neither feels truly seen. This cycle repeats until someone chooses courage. The courage to face the shadow. The courage to show up unmasked. The courage to say, "Here is all of me, not just the parts one think you will like." True intimacy is born in that moment. It is not performance but presence. Not control but surrender. Not seeking wholeness in another, but meeting from a place of inner wholeness. Ancient traditions understood this. In tantric philosophy, sexual energy is not only physical but sacred. It represents union, the merging of body, mind, and spirit. Jung saw similar patterns in alchemy. The merging of opposites. The transformation of lead into gold. The condemnation, the sacred marriage within. The process begins not with another person, but within the self. When we embrace the masculine and feminine energies within, when we integrate shadow with light, we stop chasing completion outside. We become whole. And from that wholeness, love no longer becomes desperate grasping. It becomes shared presence. So ask yourself now, what parts of me am I still projecting onto others? What do I seek in a partner that I have yet to find within myself? And how might my relationships change if I stopped searching for my missing pieces in others and started reclaiming them in myself? Because until we do, intimacy will always feel incomplete. We have traced the hidden influence of sexual energy through repression, projection, and relationships. Now we arrive at the most transformative realization. The very energy you were taught to fear is the same energy that creates worlds. Carl Jung believed that the libido was not limited to physical desire. It is the core life force, the psychic fire that fuels imagination, creativity, spirituality, and love. When you repress it, you do not only silence desire. You silence your own becoming. The tragedy of modern life is that we are taught productivity without passion, efficiency without embodiment, social roles without soul. And in that distortion we live half alive, functional but fractured. But here is the revelation. The energy you suppress is also the energy that can awaken you. Not through rebellion or indulgence, but through reverence. When you reclaim it, you rediscover vitality. You begin to imagine, to create, to feel deeply, to love authentically. The German philosopher Goethe once wrote, "Whatever you can do or dream you can begin it." Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. This boldness arises when suppressed energy is transmuted into creativity. Desire at its core is not weakness. It is guidance. The desire to connect, to touch, to express, to create, these are not flaws but portals. Every artist, mystic, and visionary has known that the same force stirring beneath the surface is the one that births vision. You cannot separate soul from sensuality. You cannot rise spiritually while shaming your instincts. You cannot live a life of depth while hiding from your own fire. This is the essence of individuation, becoming whole. To achieve it, you must walk through the shadows you were told to avoid. You must face desire, grief, and longing with compassion, not judgment. Without compassion, there is no healing. And without healing, we endlessly repeat the same cycles with new faces and new disguises. The alchemists called this transformation condemnation, the sacred marriage of opposites. For Jung, It was the merging of shadow and light, masculine and feminine, body and soul. It is not an abstract theory. It is the inner process through which you reclaim your power. And when you reclaim it, you stop chasing relationships that mirror your wounds. You stop performing roles that hide your truth. You stop fearing your desires and begin channeling them into creation. Imagine waking each day not in conflict with your body, but in alignment with it. Imagine experiencing desire not as shame but as signal, not as chaos but as compass. The philosopher Rumi expressed it beautifully: try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even if they come with sorrow. For who knows what new joy may be waiting in the barren soil. Suppressed energy, when faced, becomes fertile ground for transformation. What was once feared becomes sacred. What was once hidden becomes luminous. This is the path of liberation, not the denial of instinct, but its integration into awareness. When you honor your energy instead of running from it, you become less reactive. You gain presence, compassion, and resilience. You begin to love not out of need, but from wholeness. You begin to create not from emptiness, but from overflow. You begin to live not from suppression, but from soul. The suppressed becomes sacred. The wounded becomes wise. The shadow becomes light. And this light is not a future promise. It is already within you, waiting to be acknowledged. So ask yourself now, what part of your energy have you abandoned because someone told you it was dangerous? What would it mean to reclaim it, not with ego but with love? Because the truth is this: you are not broken. You are not too much. You are not dangerous. You are powerful. And when power is integrated with love, it becomes the highest form of creation. It becomes life in motion.